What is going on, guys? Weevil YouTuber here, back with another video. Today I'm here with my buddy John Nash. Say hi, John Nash.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah, he's a regular at Locals, like myself, and we're going to be reviewing his Dark World deck. So let's get right into it, shall we?
Yeah, so we'll just do a little main deck thing, a little side deck, a little extra deck, and then a few tech cards that I've seen a lot of people use, especially the people in YCS. So let's get right into it. No prizes for guessing, 3 Graphas. You absolutely need 3. This is basically what your side deck is going to revolve around, because people are going to try and remove this. So obviously 3.
Yeah, Grapha's a boss.
3 snows. Oh, sorry, you wanted them like this.
Yeah, that's good. I don't mind.
3 snows. Also, obviously incredibly important. It gets up to 2,000 with the gates. If you need to, you can overlay into a nice level 4. But really, it's
the searching option. Yeah.
We're talking a bit about discarding options. Sometimes the option is not that easy, but and then of course 2 browse, very very important. Gets around bottomless, which is also important because it's getting more popular these days. 2 beige. Some people only want 1, but I feel like 2 is better because sometimes you just need a monster to be able to summon to get back Grapha. And some people put in like silvers and golds, but I feel like beige is better because he basically just turns into a Grapha as long as you have him in the graveyard. And then let's make a little room. And then these are the 1 copy cards, 1 silver. Sometimes you just need a monster that you can discard and he'll summon, and it gets over like with the gates. It gets to 2,600. That's good. That gets over a lot of monsters. So.
Gets over Lagia.
Yeah, 1 is good. Plus, he's also a target with the lore. Sometimes you need it. You have a target. It's a Graph and a Silva. Obviously, you lower the Silva. 1 Spirit Reaper. It's kind of a new choice I'm playing around with. A lot of people, you can run either Galandu or Spirit Reaper. Galandu is kind of more expensive, though Spirit Reaper is more budget one. In Dark World, a lot of the times you're just waiting for 1 card to set you off, and we'll get into it. But it's kind of a boom or bust kind of a deck, and sometimes you just need a card to just basically give you a bit of time. I don't have any tour guides like Goldust in Ireland at the moment, but so this is kind of a tour guides basically turns into Zen mains and stalls. So Spirit Reaper does the job. It's obviously poor man's Zen mains, but it does the job some of the time. 1 Malefic Stardust.
I'm sure he serves a similar purpose to Spirit Reaper in terms of like just stalling it, preventing your field spell from being destroyed until you can.
Yeah, it's really the field spell. It's also it's kind of dead sometimes, so you end up alluring a lot of the time. But yeah, and I also run skill drain, so you can obviously skill drain, and then you can bring it out, and then you can attack with more than 1. And a Morphing Jar. I feel like Morphing Jar. It's not run a lot, but I feel like it improves consistency a lot because sometimes you get such bad hands, and if you get 5 cards that are basically useless, and you get a Morphing Jar, that hand is no good because basically a lot of times you have useless hands because you have a lot of Dark World monsters and no way to discard them. So Morphing Jar just really sort of can get you out of a bad hand, which I'm really sort of interested in because a lot of the times I lose is because I just basically can't do anything with the hand.
Yeah, I generally find that Morphing Jar is used in the decks that are heavy on the golds and silvers because they can just swarm so quickly. I mean, he definitely works in. See, the thing is, if you're just discarding a bunch of Graphas or a beige and a Grapha and a snow or whatever, it's a little bit slower because you're not actually getting that much field presence. But Morphing Jar, I definitely agree. He's bad hands. You definitely need to.
Or get the magic. 3 drag downs. They're totally necessary.
Yeah, the most annoying spell card.
It's really really good on turn 1, obviously, and then obviously with Mind Crush. 3 Dark World dealings. These go out if you ever play a mirror match, but otherwise you have to run 3. They're just so important. I run two gates. You definitely don't want, obviously it can clog the hand, and also if you get gates really early, oftentimes you can't use it. You don't want this card early. You want it kind of after a couple of turns, and sometimes, I don't know, I don't want one in my first opening hand usually, so I just put it down. I usually bump it up to 3 of the side deck when people side in, all the MT hate to get rid of the field spells. Foolish Barrel, this card, I'd run this at 3 if I could. This card is, if you get this and any Dark World monster in your opening hand, it basically means special summon a Grapha from your deck, because you just Foolish a Grapha and then you summon whatever is in your hand, and then you get a Grapha like that. That card is too awesome, man. It sucks, it's only at 1. Card destruction, So I'm going to crap up. Carson, this is, oh man. If you get a chance, if you're playing against Dark World, you should probably Solemn Judgment that, because sometimes that's their only out. They have a bunch of Dark World monsters, they're relying on card destruction to get off, and if you can, this is just the money maker right here. It does everything. Reborn, a great trick of Reborn, you know, it's kind of obvious. Don't Reborn the Grapha, Reborn a Snow, and then bounce back the Snow for the Grapha, and then you get a +1 basically.
Yeah.
Allure, for all the monsters you don't want. Sometimes you don't want that Reaper, you don't want the Malefic, you don't want the Silva. Sometimes you have to allure something you don't want to allure, but that's happened sometimes. Heavy Storm, obviously needed. Dark Hole.
Staple.
Yeah, clear this crap up.
And the traps, I guess, are just the Reckless Engine, and what else?
Yeah,
what else you got in there?
It's a little different. It's obviously 3 Reckless Creeds.
I'd say they're pretty much staples.
They are. You definitely need them. There's a lot of drawing power, and sometimes you get a bad hand, and say you get a bad hand, but you get 2 Reckless Creeds. That just transform your hands, and usually you do so much with
into awesomeness.
Yeah. Sometimes even if you get 5 cards. You get 5 cards and a Reckless Greed in your opening hand. Sometimes you don't want to have the Reckless Greed because then you skip 2 draw phases. But sometimes it will, like say you'll have a handful of Dark World monsters and you Reckless Greed and you go, I don't know if I should activate it because then I skip 2 draw phases. But then you Reckless Greed into a Dark World dealings or a card destruction and you're like, okay, you know, it can get you out of a bad hand. It's kind of a last, you know, act of desperation, but it can still get you out of a bad hand. Skill Drain, it doesn't really hurt the deck at all.
No, it's awesome.
You know, runes and sectors, runes, rabbit. I think this kind of needs to be a staple in my opinion in Dark World. Mind Crush. They're really good, but they can be dead sometimes if you don't know what's in their hand because you don't have any.
You don't have drag down.
Yeah, if you don't have drag down, it can be kind of dead sometimes. So I would usually side this out when I'm making my sides for game 2. But it can be brutal at the right time, especially since it's a discard all copies, not just the one. A couple of new cards. Well, not this. Someone doesn't. You need it. 2 Torrential Tributes.
Yeah, I can see the potential of that because if you Torrential, you're not really losing much since you can just bounce for Grapha anyway. And
it's also that it's just a nice generic card because Solemn Warning's not that useful. Bottomless Trap Hole doesn't hit things like Rabbit. I feel like you need Torrential Tributes because that hits Rabbit. That hits all the Insectors. I just like generic stuff that'll deal with almost every deck instead of like Bottomless Trap Hole and Solemn Warning. And you can't really use Solemn Warning because you're paying with Skill Drain, and you know, sometimes you get a bad hand, you have to take a few direct shots. So I don't think you can afford really to use Solemn Warnings. And then just 1 Compulsory.
just for annoying XYZs, I take it.
Yeah, it's just a very good card. It just kills so many monsters.
Yeah, especially with the removal of ignition priority. So
yeah, I would like even more of them. Potentially put more of them. Okay, side deck. Malefic Cyberend. Depending on what deck you're playing, he's good, but sometimes he's just so dead. Especially since I'm only running 2 gates. Sometimes he's just so dead. So I would side him in against decks that basically can't handle really high attack, like Evols, like Rabbit. He's really good, you know. Oftentimes, I used to run him a lot, but I ended up alluring him a lot, and I wish he was something else half the time. Spirit Reaper, again, this is just either Reaper or Galen do whatever you want, but sometimes you just need something to stave off some attacks. And since it's level 3, you can allure it, and you can also make you know, rank 3s. Another gate, so you side that in when people side in all the Magic Trap Destruction. I'm going to put these all together. 3 MSTs and 3 Dose Tornadoes. That is what you really need against people who will side in all the typical things like Macrocosmos, D-Fisher, Shadow Imprisoning Weir. You need them. I think you need all 6 if people are doing it because 3's not enough. Because if they side in 3 mirrors, they might get to the mirrors, and you might not get to any of your MSTs, and then basically you can't do anything against Shadow Imprisoning Weir. You don't have anything. So you definitely need all 6. What I usually side out is I don't need to touch my magics. I'd side out the traps. I'd side out maybe these, maybe the Mind Crushes, maybe the Skill Drains if.
Depending on the deck they're running, I guess.
Depending on the deck. You know, against E-Heroes, you know, take out Skill Drains.
Against Insectors, keep them.
Yeah, obviously against Insectors, keep them. But against Dark World and them, take out the Skill Drains. 2 bottomless trap. I cited it because I don't think you can main it because it just doesn't hit a lot of cards. You know, it doesn't hit a lot of Inzectors and.
What's your answer to the mirror match against another Dark World? Like, what would you side in?
I don't have any specific matches for the Dark World. I would side out things. I would side out Dark World dealings. What I would side in, I guess I would side in compulsories. I'd side in 2 bottomless trap walls trying to hit the Grapha. I just don't have enough room for specific anti-Dark World cards. I don't usually play a lot of Dark World decks either, so I'm not too worried about that. So bottomless trap, I would definitely side these in against Dark World, obviously.
Yeah. Get rid of the Graphas early.
Yeah. Call the Haunted, really good. It's kind of like, you know, if people try to decoy your Grapha, Call the Haunted, bring back Grapha back. Their crowd does nothing. Same thing with Monster Reborn. Bring back a Snow, bring back a Brow, then bounce that for a Grapha, and you get a +1. Another compulsory, depending on what deck you're playing against. If it's a lot of XYZs, another compulsory is really great. Return to the Dimension, great card for when people side in all your Macrocosmos stuff. You should definitely side this in along the MT Tate. I mean, you don't want them to remove it, but they're going to remove it eventually. You know, GD Crow is kind of hard to negate. So if they do, you know, no problem. You know, bring back your Graph. Also, you can combine it with, you have the gates. You know, most people, you don't remove your Grapha with your gates, but obviously you can. If you have this, then you do it. You move your Grapha, you bounce your Grapha, and then you obviously play a return and get a Grapha back, and that should be game right there. And then a deck Devi, it's really good. It's a staple in most decks, most Dark World builds, but I don't know. It just doesn't work well against some decks. I just played a lot of decks where it does nothing because everything is over 1500, like E-Heroes, like Scraps, like Dark World. Well, it hits some Dark World, but it's not terrific. So I keep it as a side deck card. I'm trying to go for the high consistency build. Okay, we'll get into. I don't have a lot of extra deck. Just the only cards I use are Utopia. XYZs don't really, or Dark World doesn't really rely on the side deck a whole lot because, you know, you're not going to have 2 level 4s that often. You know, Utopia, the Photon, the Leviathan Dragon, you know, you rarely bring these out, only if you need to for some reason. Obviously you need the Cyber End for my Malefic Cyber End, obviously the Stardust Dragon. The rest of it is just stuff that I probably won't even bring out. So we get around to just the last few tech cards that I've seen a lot of people use. Dark Armed, I mean, it's okay, it's not great because you have to remove your dark stuff, so that's why I'm not using that in my side or my main. Gores is interesting, it's good because if you get a bad hand, you can just let them wipe you, and then Gores can just save you from really a bad hand.
Plus he's a Fiend, so, you know, Fiends are always good.
Dark Feel, he's allurable, all that stuff. Cheerful Coffin, an interesting tech. I haven't played around with it enough to know how good it is. You know, it's a neg 1, but I guess it sort of depends on your hand. I feel like it's a little bit inconsistent because what if you don't have what you want to discard then? But yeah, I feel like it isn't.
It's not versatile enough, I don't think.
Goes in matches an interesting side. It's only good against a couple of decks though. It's not good against Inzectors. It's good against Rabbit, but I don't think it's just. My side deck is just full. Dark Deal. This is good. I almost had this in, but I don't know. Sometimes 1,000 can be expensive. I almost forgot about the cost. And if you have anything that's not a Dark World in your hand, then there's a chance it won't do anything, and you'll get neg 2 for nothing. And it doesn't work against a lot of cards. It's only normal Magic, so all the quick play and stuff, it doesn't do anything against. So that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's nice against like first turn duality is pretty common play. So like. Might be bad if they go first turn duality.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to set up your hand though. Obviously, the big benefit is if it gets off, it gets the secondary effect of the Dark World monsters. It doesn't just get them one. But yeah, but that's not really that good in the first turn because Snow's second effect is you special summon from your graveyard and they won't have anything yet. So
that's true.
Solemn Warning. I just feel like you can't really afford to pay these. It is really good, but it used to be really good because it's the only thing that stopped Rabbit and stuff, but now you have got Compulsory, you got Torrential.
You got Effect Failure.
Yeah, well obviously I don't run Effect Failure in this deck, but I just feel like it's too expensive. You're paying for your skill drains, you just can't afford this, and there's just cheap alternatives that do the job most of the time. Mirror Force, I'd like to play it, I just have no room for it unfortunately. And the Starlight Road, again I'd like to play it, but no room.
Cool.
So that's the deck.
That's the deck, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll have another deck review coming up with my good friend Timur from Locals, so keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching, guys. This is Mr. Nash signing out. See you later.
See you later.